Hey, what's up, Bonehawk? Shujinkydink here. Welcome to a video all about Mortal Kombat, Injustice, any NRS game, basically. I wanted to just give out a refresher. This is stuff I've definitely talked about before if you've been around the channel for a while, but I'm all about tutorial stuff, and I just thought, maybe I'd remind you of a couple things here that will help you out no matter what game you're playing. You can use it across everyone. You'll use it a little differently on games, and I'll kind of explain that, but really just wanted to put something helpful out into the universe, that everybody can enjoy. So, 3 tips to help you in any NRS game.
Accept your death.
Tip number 1 is always knowing where you stand with your meter. And I'm not just talking your offensive meter in the bottom corner that's right below my fat head here. I'm talking about your life bar. In MKX specifically, I'm talking about the stamina bar, because you can run. That's a thing. As well as everything else. So there's a couple things that you'll want to keep in mind, and that is kind of finding times to check on your meter. One thing that I do in particular that I find very useful, once you get really comfortable with your combos, you can actually use that time to do a quick scan of the screen. So for example, if I'm doing this combo here, we get to about the trance portion, is kind of where I look around, I say, okay, what am I dealing with here? What's their health looking like as I'm ending that combo? And what's their stamina looking like? Can I use the interactable as soon as they wake up? That kind of a thing. So finding some times where you can just kind of sweep around the screen and say, okay, I have this much meter, they have this much meter, so they're at a meter disadvantage, so maybe I can use a meter heavy game to kind of win the round, kind of a deal. Super duper important, of course, when it comes to your x-rays and stuff as well, which we all know that I get smacked by quite a bit. So yeah, just making sure that you always know where you stand with your meter. That is super duper important, and there's so many people that I've played, they go to do a combo and they didn't have the meter to enhance a move, and then they get sometimes full-on punished because they didn't know where they stood with their meter. So that's tip number 1. Again, it's going to look differently depending on each game. In Injustice 2, you also have things like the clash that you have to worry about and seeing like, okay, do I have more meter than my opponent? Are we going to clash? Do they have a clash available? Clash is a resource. I would definitely recommend that you keep on track of whether your opponent has used it, you have used it. Sometimes matches get so crazy I kind of forget. I have to look up. There's an indicator in the health bar. MK11 is a little bit of a different story because you have a regenerating meter that regenerates on its own. So one thing you really do want to be aware of in that game is that you know which moves regenerate faster and which moves regenerate slower. Make sure that you're alternating the two when need be. If you absolutely need the damage, you use the one that regenerates a little bit slower. If it's something that can maybe wait, or you're just kind of doing it on a whim, maybe you do the one that recovers faster. And then again, just always kind of be keeping an eye on it, seeing what you got, understanding that breakaway fucking sucks, at least the input, and that meter's going to come back super duper slow. One thing that's kind of nice is I'm going to use an interactable or something in MK11. I'll almost always use it, or a wake-up attack, just before the end of the round. Like it's either I lose the round, because that meter will come back by the time the next round actually starts. So, nice tip for you. Feel free to use that bar meter if you think you're going to lose the round anyways, or maybe you'll mount a comeback. Never go up on a comeback. Ever. Anyway, that's it for this one. Moving on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is jumping too much. And where this kind of becomes a problem is when you come reliant on it to close this space right here. So I've seen a lot of people throw away rounds and even games because they chose to jump in. I got the anti-air, converted it into a combo or whatever it is that I was doing. GG's, shake my hand. So one thing that I like to suggest to people to do is play like 20 games, link up with a friend, and just try not to jump. You're going to lose some games because of that, but it will also help you come up with better ideas on traversing this space here, which is super duper important. Knowing the strings that your character can use, this one here for example, this one here, I could just eye laser if I want to. So knowing different ways to do that doesn't rely on the jump, and then not only do you have those options available, but then you also, if you need to, have the jump on top of that. And that's where this zone becomes kind of scary with the jump. Once you've learned how to traverse this area, and I think that's why a lot of people do just a raw jump in, because they don't really know what to do here. It's an awkward space and it's hard to work in. But the more that you practice with this and understand what your character can do in this specific space, you're going to have a lot more success. I guarantee it. So yeah, try to play some games without jumping, and that will just kind of force you to figure out some things to do, and then go into practice mode, hit up practice mode, and be like, okay, what moves can I use? I could also do something like that, you know? The possibilities are endless. They're endless. They're not actually endless. You just have a lot of them. So, and again, this is for all 3 games: MK11, Injustice 2, and MKX. So this one is a little bit more generic. All 3 of them are kind of the same thing. I think Anti-Airs and MKX are probably the strongest of the 3, but they still do exist in different avenues. I mean, you got Meter Burn Back 3 and Injustice 3, which is just universal Injustice 3. I wish. It's been a long day. It's Monday. Injustice 2, and then MK11. I'd say they're probably the weakest, but they're still there. Like, Standing 1 is still a good overall anti-air with almost everybody. So the option's still there. So yeah, pretty generic around all 3 of the games. This does also work, I guess, for Gods Among Us and MK9 too. I just don't want to go into too much detail in those games right now. Anyways, moving on to our final tip. I'll stop talking now. And my third and final tip here is stage awareness. And this is incredibly important across all 3 games, across all 5 games technically, but knowing where you are in relation to the stage. I cannot tell you the amount of people that have tried to zone me out with a character and just keep backing up, ha 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 ha, I'm zoning you out, I'm being a spammy bastard, you know, and then all of a sudden, wait, now I'm in the corner. I can't go backwards anymore. And I'm Baraka, I'm like, ah, chomp, you know? That's what Baraka does. But you want to be careful, like, if you are going around that strategy, say, like you are zoning, trying to stay away, keep your distance, just as soon as you get to a certain spot where you're like, okay, if I start going any more, I'm going to be in the corner and that's not where I want to be, I have to engage. And that might take your opponent off guard, or you come up and you just do a throw, switch position, and then you get to go back all the rest of the other way. Rushdown is the same thing, except you're on the other side of it. You see them zoning you, and you just kind of get, okay, no, keep doing that. See what you're doing, and then bam, you're in the corner, and then you attack and rush them down and do Baraka things, because that's what we do. Boom, boom, bop, 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 ah. I love that combo. It's so cool. Feels really good to land too. That's another thing that I'm kind of going off topic a little bit here, but I think it's still kind of relatable. That's one of the reasons why I chose this variation with the Baraka Zerker and the Gutted, is like one combo here. Boom, boom, boom. Punch you in my room. We're in the corner, and that's where I get on my damage. So that could be stage awareness as well. That's because that is exactly why I picked that move to begin with, because of how it moves me across the screen exactly to where I want to be. So keep that in mind if you have a variation or something you could try with your character that kind of moves you around. Another thing you want to be aware of too is interactables. What's around you? What can you use? This is a stage that I always like to specifically target because of this interactable over here. This is a low. Now, Baraka doesn't really have a low mix-up, but we do have overheads right here, and this, there. So this interactable in particular not only gives me a lot of damage, but it also gives me a mix-up where I wouldn't have one regardless, and that's a lot of damage. It's 25% right there. So things like that are really important for Baraka, and there's other maps that have similar things. I think the Black Dragon Fight Club has an overhead one. So like that you can kind of play around with and give yourself a little bit more of an advantage. As well, maps that have interactable escapes around them, like Coliseum Beast Pen, for example. I believe you have an escape out of the corner out of both of them. So if you're playing against a character, say you're a zoner, you're playing against a rushdown character, then you can be like, whatever, I'll get to the corner, I got an escape there, you know? It's no big deal. I got a way out. So you're thinking about that ahead of time and then making sure that you're using that in the proper way when you actually get there. So, whew, that was a lot of talking. I hope I didn't bore you guys to death. And I hope that you learned something here, or were just reminded of something here, or maybe you just can go and test something out. So either way, the goal is always to educate and help you learn and get better at these games. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, because it really helps me out. And subscribe if you haven't, because I make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks, all that stuff, and I'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.